This last year, 15 to 20 minutes of it. So I'm going to review some of those things because it's been a year and it's helpful to hear these things maybe even more than once a year. And then maybe I'll say something new. If you're new to choir, maybe you'll have some questions afterward if I use over some of these technical things. But let's stand together. You guys have a sheet that you passed out, vocal exercises. We're going to do some of these. I'm going to talk about some vocal technique and we'll do some exercises just along with some of that conversation. But for the moment, you don't need this, just put it down. We're going to talk about singer's posture. We just have to start at the beginning, okay? So, when we stand as a singer, we keep our feet shoulder width apart. And the reason is, if you recall, Sherilyn, come push me over. I think that is okay. So my feet were together that time, in case you couldn't see. So I'm not very stable. Now, wait. Okay. My feet are shoulder width apart. But you can't get me. Okay. So okay, so that's one reason why we have our feet shoulder width apart, so that no one can push us down like stage. Okay. But just so that we have that steady base of support, okay? Because as singers, our whole nice, thank you. I said this, they thought it was funny. Okay, so as singers, our whole body is our instrument. So unlike someone else that sits at a piano or carries their instrument in a case, ours is a part of our body. So the way that we support ourselves, the way that we breathe, the way that we carry ourselves, the way that we keep our health as best as we can, is all that influences our voice. So, back to posture, starting with the feet, shoulder width apart. We never want to lock our knees. We don't want to be falling over on stage, so we stay relaxed even though we're tall. And then as we move up, the easiest thing to remember is just to keep your sternum high. Tap your sternum. Yeah, it's this bone right here connected to your rib cage. Inside your rib cage are your lungs. That's where your breath all happens, which makes the voice work. So that's why it's important to keep your sternum high. A few things to remember that we try not to do with our singer's posture is to never reach for our notes like this. Guys always do this. I don't know more than the ladies, but I see a lot of tenors go, and they try to use this physically to hit their notes. It feels like we're helping, yeah. But you're not helping. You're creating tension in there by kind of straining these muscles. So we always want to keep our cheekbones parallel to the floor. So if you can think of that, so that we don't ever reach for notes like that, that'll keep this all relaxed. We also want to make sure that the tongue stays flat in the mouth so that the tip of the tongue touches the back of the bottom teeth. Which, have you ever even thought about this before? No. So much of singing is just having to turn your brain on to things that maybe you've already done naturally, or maybe you have some funny habits that we have to work through with like that. That's what we do in lessons and classes. But keep your tongue flat because, I don't know if you've ever heard someone sing where they start to swallow their tongue a little, but it sounds like this. And it kind of sounds forced and weird. So don't do that. So we want to keep our tongue flat. And I just talk about that along with posture because I think it's part of it. In a choir, you know, this is a big group, and I think it's easy to feel like, well, nobody's maybe looking at me, right? There are 100 of us up on this stage, but somebody's always looking at you, at each person, at all of us. So I think it's important for us, yes, to think of our posture in regards to how we're supporting our voice, because our body is our instrument, but also when we're up front in church, we're setting an example with how we're taking the worship seriously, and even in how we are seeming engaged with what we do with our eyes, with our eye contact. Are we watching Peter, you know, during our kind of presentational songs, or are we just staring at the screen like this, you know? So just keeping all of that in mind, since somebody's always watching you. So let that kind of be a motivator as we think posture. But let's do a few exercises. Grab your sheet and just think about your posture. So much of singing is just thinking about what we're doing, which again, you may already do naturally. But let's do a few of these. Look at, let's do number 2. This is super easy. It just sounds like this. We're just using consonants to help us project a little bit so we don't keep our voices in, we throw them out. But think of your singer's posture, high sternum, feet shoulder width apart, no reaching for notes, tongue placement. That's 4 things already to think about with this silly little exercise. Let's try it. Ready? Go down. Good. Good. Is it okay that I'm just warming them up for you a little bit too? I figured that could be part of this. Okay, warming us all up. Look at the back side, number 12. There's no vowel because I forgot to type it in. All these little symbols, these letters are in brackets. It's called the International Phonetic Alphabet, IPA, and it's something that we use for our voice majors to know how to pronounce any sound in any language. But I forgot to put the symbol in here for the vowel up. So we're going to sing mum, 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 mum. And again, focusing on our posture. I think we did this one last year, but it sounds like this. Mum, 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 mum. Try that with me, ready? Mum, 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 mum. Good, and you just end on a hum and have your teeth apart inside and feel all that space that you have inside your mouth. Okay, ready? Mum, 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 mum. Like this where our jaw is moving a lot is to keep this all real loose. Again, part of posture and just staying relaxed. We never want tension anywhere around our vocal cords. We're working hard here in our body for breathing, but we want this to all be real relaxed. So even as we do this exercise, just let your jaw be real relaxed and kind of dead. All right, ready? Good, do a few more. In regards to our posture, like I said, the reason that that's so important is because it affects our breath, and breath is what makes our vocal cords work. I remember when I took my first voice lesson as a junior in high school, and my teacher spoke about breathing for 45 minutes, and I was like, I did not sign up for this. This is so boring. So I'm not going to do that right now, but I do understand now, 20 years later, that breathing is what makes the vocal cords work. So when you take that breath in and your rib cage expands, your lungs fill with air, and then it comes up your windpipe, goes right through your vocal cords that are kind of sitting horizontally right here. They're just the size of your thumbnail. If you look at your thumbnail, it's really tiny. So those are your vocal cords, how big they are. And air passes through them and makes them vibrate, and that's how we make sound. Okay, the fancy word for that is phonating, all right? Okay, so that's how we make sound, and that's why breath is connected to singing. So if we want to sing high notes, low notes, loud notes, or quiet, anytime that we need that control, really anytime we open our mouth to sing, we're having to focus on our breath. And it's something that's really involuntary to us the moment that we're born, right? If all things are well, a baby's breathing. And so it's not something we have to think of. You do that at night. It's involuntary, but as a singer, we just have to turn our brains on a little bit and think about it more, because we sing phrases that are longer than just how we speak our sentences. We sing notes that are higher or lower and like that than our normal speaking voice. So I want you to feel a singer's breath. We did this last time, and a little easy, cheap way to feel a singer's breath is to stick your hands over your head. Do this with me. Hooray. Okay, and take in a nice big breath, and it's silent. Ready? Silent breath with me. And then put your arms down and feel your ribcage and how full of air it is. Front, back, all around. Yeah? Do you feel it? I'm seeing some confusion. That's okay. That's okay. Let's do it one more time. Feel that singer's breath. Silent breath. And your arms down and feel how full of air you are. Now, you don't always need a breath. You can let it out. You don't always need a breath quite that full, but if you know you're going to have a really long phrase, or we're singing in the round and it's very exposed, and so we have to have a straight tone for a long time, sometimes we do need that full of a breath. Other times, maybe not. So being a good breather as a singer is knowing what kind of breath, how much of a breath do I need. Okay, so a singer's breath is going to be silent, like I just mentioned. One easy reason is that we don't want the whole choir going, every time we take in a breath. That would be very distracting, and it can also dry out the vocal cords. So we keep our breath silent, kind of like you're surprised, like that, and air just falls in. So we never want to think of sucking in air, we just want to think of letting air fall in. Again, that keeps us relaxed instead of using these muscles. So everybody be surprised. Ready? Oh my goodness, I keep doing it. I just want to see it again. Ready? Be surprised. Do that every verse. Okay. So that's your surprise. And what you did without even realizing in that, when I said surprise, is that you did this with your eyes, and you looked alive and ready to sing, and you lifted this, your inside smile. We're going to talk about that in a minute when we get to our tone. And you also gave yourself a lot of space inside your mouth. Okay, you know this because you've been in choirs and sung for a long time, but we need to have space inside our mouth when we sing. So if you feel the hard part at the top of your mouth is your hard palate. If you scoot your tongue back and feel the squishy part, that's your soft palate. So if your soft palate is just kind of down and hanging there, it's like singing into a pillow. If we give that surprise feel, where everything inside lifts up like that, it's like singing against a hard surface. And that's the difference between singing in like a sound studio with foam all over the walls where the sound gets sucked in, or singing in more of a reverberant area, okay, like our church or a cathedral like that. So we always want to give as much resonance as we can. How did I get on that? Oh, the surprise thing. Okay. So let's practice our breathing. So singer's breath is silent. I also shouldn't see it. We shouldn't be able to see your breath. So if you watch little kids choirs, they often will move their shoulders. It's called clavicular breathing when they take in a breath. But as singers, we want our breath to be lower. And just kind of imagine as if it's coming all the way even from the bottom of our feet up, okay? So a silent breath and a breath that you can't see. I think that's all I want to say on that. I want to practice it in a minute. Oh, the other thing is you felt, you get the hands over the head, you felt that singer's breath, we know how to get it. But if we know how to get it and then we don't know how to use it, that's not super helpful. So I could get a really good, full singer's breath, but still, and I use my air like that. Maybe because my tone isn't very clear. Maybe I have a lot of breathiness in my tone, so it's not a very efficient use of my air, if that makes sense. So when we get our good singer's breath, we also have to learn how to use our breath in a way that's very efficient. So that's where these exercises come in. I always tell my voice class, they're just in a beginning class with me. I don't require a lot of hours from them, but I give them a commercial every week and say, right, Barbara's my accompanist, so she's heard it for years. But I just tell them 10 minutes a day of doing these exercises on the sheet that I gave you or something else you like, it doesn't matter, but where you can just turn your brain on. And not just like you're singing in the car or the shower, but that you're really, you're standing with your good singer's posture like you will in choir, and you're thinking of these things and thinking about how I breathe, how am I expelling this air, am I using my breath well, all this picky, kind of nitpicky stuff I say. But if you do that 10 minutes a day, you can really notice a change in your tone, in your range, in your ability to hold a phrase longer. So that's why I'm teaching you some of the exercises with this. But let's do a few more. I'm going to go back to the piano and let's focus on getting that good singer's breath that's silent and something that we can't see. And then as we expel our air, we're going to focus on just using a very little bit at a time. So put your hands on your rib cage, at least one, maybe one on the rib cage and one with your sheet if you want.